All right, let's get more on professional sports leagues and financing with Mike Bako. He's the sports editor for the Daily National. Mike, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
So, Mike, as we just saw there, Real Madrid, Barcelona, 5 other Spanish football teams being told by the European Commission that they have to pay back money that they got from the government. Real and Barcelona, 2 of the richest teams. How did they even get to this place that they were enjoying state subsidies for a quarter of a century?
Well, you have to look back at the time in which they got that subsidy. We're not looking at the billions of dollars that are coming in now, the tens of millions of dollars that are going to players' salaries. So when you look at what's going on with European soccer or with Real Madrid, you're looking at a different time and age when some of these sanctions came in.
So it made sense 25 years ago for them to receive subsidies. Why?
Basically to try to grow the sport, have them put money into the infrastructure of cities and stadiums, and for civic pride to a certain degree. Plus, there were some politicians that were probably very ardent fans, so they wanted to give a little extra boost to their hometown teams. But now it just doesn't make sense because so much is above board. The public knows how much is coming in, and the public knows how much is going out in terms of players' salaries, so it really doesn't make sense anymore.
Well, we're seeing a similar phenomenon here in the U.S. Let's take the National Football League, for example. Last year, it gave up its status to be tax exempt. Why was it tax exempt in the first place? Similar situation?
Not quite. If you go back to professional football, you go back to a period of time in the 1960s when the AFL and the NFL, 2 leagues merged together. They got this status because they were almost put into a trade organization classification. They were to promote their members being their players. Now, the teams were not tax exempt. They were always paying taxes on the revenue that they were generating. So at the time, they fell into this very murky area of a trade organization. Obviously, over the years, the league was trying to put forward their best foot forward for their players and their players' interests. But again, much like what was going on with European soccer, we know too much at this time.
All right, so the changing of the times means a change of status. But for the NFL, why did it make sense to give up this good tax exemption?
I think, if you could believe it, good public relations, because they were getting so much bad public relations. When you know how many billions of dollars are being poured in, when you know that your commissioner is being paid $40, $50, $60 million a year, that's bad publicity for the NFL that really is always trying to shine up their image.
But were fans even aware of this bad publicity, and to such a degree that it would deter them from watching?
It's apples and oranges comparison, but fans were aware of the domestic violence abuses, the steroid abuses. They didn't really care. So you really needed to peel back the layers to the fans that really care about the business of sports as much as anything else. The average Joe watching and playing in his fantasy football league on Sunday doesn't care whether the NFL is paying taxes or not. What they might care about is whether their hometown team is getting tax subsidies for a stadium which he can't afford to take his kids to go to the game at.
Well, a similar situation with Major League Baseball. They were in the same category, tax exempt as a nonprofit, until 2007. Why did they opt out?
I think they opted out because they were getting so many new revenue streams that were coming in. They've been a real trailblazer in terms of streaming, internet streaming, so many different revenue sources. So I think they also saw the writing on the wall. We're going to have all of these different revenue streams that are coming in. We do not want this to be public knowledge for everyone, and we don't want public knowledge people to know what we're paying our executives either. That's the other thing, that going back to the NFL example, I think with Roger Goodell getting so much bad publicity, they want to take that off of the front page as well.
Yeah, I'm still not sure that would actually deter fans from watching.
It wouldn't.
But back to your point about the stadiums being built and that being funded by taxpayers, and taxpayers being aware of this, the NFL still benefiting tremendously. $5.4 billion in taxpayer money has been spent on stadiums for the NFL since 1997. But Mike, the argument could be made that the cities in the surrounds benefit from this. The businesses around the stadiums do reap a reward. It drives tourism, it drives fans. Can you make that argument that it could be tax exempt or subsidized?
Those are great headlines. Those are great headlines that mayors who are on the hook for these stadiums want to make. But economic study after economic study has shown that this doesn't revitalize areas, especially for football stadiums when you're looking at 8 games a year, maybe 10 games a year with preseason games. It just doesn't provide that much long-term growth for an area. The jobs that are created are part-time jobs, low-paying jobs. So the only people that benefit are the owners who are raking in all this money and all of these subsidies.
Well, let's bring it to another sport, golf. PGA rakes in about $1 billion a year. and is still tax exempt, as is the ladies' PGA.
Yeah, absolutely. They're still tax exempt. The NHL still has some tax exempt to their status as well. I think there's just not the spotlight on them that it was on Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball was in this spotlight during a lot of labor stoppages as well. So they had that spotlight on them. The NFL with some bad publicity over the last few years and the billions of dollars that are coming in. The spotlight just does not shine as brightly on the PGA.
Well, Mike, you mentioned that some of these subsidies made sense 25 years ago while the sports are being developed. Now, in China, we're seeing a budding sports industry. The government is trying to help promote it, saying it will be a big contributor to GDP, saying it can expand fivefold to about 780 billion by 2025. So can the argument be made that the government in China should be promoting leagues? And how should they be doing that?
Those are some impressive numbers, but I think they should just look at the track record of the European football leagues and the leagues that are going on here. That might be a good status for jump-starting leagues, jump-starting stadium construction, jump-starting outside investors coming in, but they should put a finite period of time, maybe a 5-year tax-exempt status, a 10-year tax-exempt status. Don't get into a situation where it's just a blanket tax-exempt status. You're going to find situations just like with the NFL, Major League Baseball, and European soccer.
That makes a lot of sense. All right, thank you so much, Mike Bako, sports editor for the Daily National.